Hello.
Welcome to Polyglot Podcast. I'm Christian, and today I have Natalia as a guest, who's actually my wife's childhood friend from Odessa, Ukraine.
Hello.
Welcome. Uh,
Thank you.
so, so we have met only once. That was like a year ago in your wedding in the Netherlands, in Delft,
Yes.
and um, today we are going to talk more about your life and how languages, like what kind of a role languages have had. And I think you have a really interesting story, like of course all my guests. I wouldn't ask you otherwise. But before starting the discussion, maybe you can tell a few facts about you, or like who are you, where are you now, what are you doing?
All right. My name is Natalia. I'm a software engineer, and I'm currently working in the Netherlands. Originally, I come from Ukraine, and I have been moving around a bit. So I also worked in Poland before, and at this moment I'm in the Netherlands, but also there are plans to move out of the Netherlands maybe next year. So some more adventures to come. That's in short.
Yeah. Funny thing, I've had maybe four, I think you're fifth software engineer on this
Yeah.
podcast. I think you're guest number 35, 34, or something like that. And
You have a
uh,
lot of guests.
yeah. But of course, I've only published 11 of them. But yeah, I've got many engineers, and especially software engineers. So your hometown is Odessa, right?
Yes, I come from Ukraine. I lived my first 23 years of my life in Odessa, and I always wanted to move abroad. I didn't know where, but I always had this idea in mind, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
ended up.
Let's start from the very beginning, from Odessa. So you're born in the same year as my wife, so 1993, right?
93, yeah.
Yeah. Um, are both of your parents from Odessa also?
No, my dad is he has roots in Odessa, we can say, and my mom, she comes from a different area in Ukraine, from central Ukraine, central part of Ukraine, and actually in her childhood they were mainly speaking Ukrainian language, while in Odessa, in my childhood and everywhere, everyone was speaking Russian language, and my mom actually uh, lived in Odessa for so long after she got married that she already got used to Russian language a lot more, and it is now also her native language as well.
Okay, so uh, what was the city your mom is from in central Ukraine?
It is close by Kirovograd. Now it's also called Yelisavetgrad, but it used to be called Kirovograd. It is a village called Velika Vyska. So
Is it
it
along
comes from there.
Dnieper, or I was wondering if I have gone past the village,
I
or
I
is it
don't
more
think so.
in the inland?
Yes, yes. And it is actually, they say it's a geographical center of Ukraine, like literally
Yeah,
3 kilometers away from that place.
yeah. So in that area, people speak Ukrainian, and that was like your mom's first language, which
Yes, they also speak like, sorry, yeah, they also speak like a mix of Ukrainian Russian. Like there are some, some Russian words here and there that are Ukrainianized or
like
yeah,
the
made sound Ukrainian.
surgic, or
Yes, that's how we call it.
yeah. So uh, I guess also your mom's parents, your grandparents from your mom's side also then spoke Ukrainian.
Yes. And my grandmother speaks Ukrainian like all her life. So yeah, I
Yeah,
always try to speak Ukrainian when I'm talking to her.
yeah. And your childhood, uh, like before going to school, Did you speak Russian with both of your parents, or Russian to your
Yes.
dad and Ukrainian to your mom, or Russian with both?
No, no, we were speaking Russian in our family for as long as I remember myself. Only when I was traveling to my relatives, to my grandmother, I would be speaking Surzhyk as well for like when I was small, I didn't really care.
Yeah,
And I would be bringing that back to Odessa and speak with other kids in this language, and
yeah,
they would be a bit surprised for some time. But
yeah.
because I was learning proper Ukrainian at school and everything, it was for me already harder to speak this mix. So it's either one or another one. And when I go
Mhm.
there, I always speak Ukrainian.
So I
Yeah.
guess for you it was easier than for my wife going to school before, because my wife told that she couldn't speak Ukrainian on first grade because she had only spoken Russian. But I guess because
hmm
of your family background, it was much easier for you.
I never had a difficulty, but I'm not sure if it's really because of the family. It's not pure Ukrainian.
Hmm.
And but for me, somehow from the start, from very primary school, where we also went together with your wife, we were exposed to a lot of Ukrainian, learning Ukrainian language, and to me, it kind of came naturally. I got used to it after learning it for many years, like on the background. So to me, it was never a foreign language. It was always like my second language that I know.
Yeah. And were all the programs on TV in Russian or Ukrainian or both in that
I
time?
think I think when I was small, it was more Russian, and at some moment it started more swinging towards Ukrainian. And um, yeah, at some we were first we didn't like this, but in some time we got used to it, and actually, I think even Ukrainian dubbing is sometimes better than Russian dubbing, like
Hmm.
for the movies and everything. So it's actually not bad, and you don't notice it these days. But I think when I was really small at the start, it was mainly all in Russian. So, yeah.
Was everything dubbed in Russian, like all the English shows and others?
Yeah, English shows for sure. English shows, like we weren't fluent at English. We couldn't understand spoken English very well. I still have troubles with watching movies in English, actually. Like when I hear people naturally speaking English, then I can understand it perfectly fine. But when it's in the TV, even when it's movies
Hmm.
specifically, somehow it sounds um, less clear. I don't know.
Yeah.
We weren't exposed to any English content at all, and most of the things were Russian or Ukrainian, but which one I wouldn't remember
Mm.
already.
Has that changed now from the time of your childhood? Like, are there English programs that are not dubbed, which are in the original
In Ukraine,
language? Yeah.
oh, I think there might be, but I don't think there is a lot. Like
Yeah.
recently, of course, youth specifically, speak a lot more English and a lot better than when I was small, for example. So it's being more and more demanded also these days, right? And more people learn English and can speak English a little bit. But back then, it was like a miracle if somebody could speak a bit of English. And
Yeah.
mainly kids like were learning. Yeah, of course, we were learning from the very small age, from 7 years when we go in school. I think 7 or 8 years, like on the primary school already. But we never were like so fluent in English to be able to watch stuff. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh wow! So you started already on first grade English.
I'm not sure first or second, but like in the primary school, we had 3 grades, and we started somewhere in primary school. So we started with alphabet, and then there were like simple words, and we were writing some simple stories so we could express some things like I have a toy, it's a tiger, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. In Finland, actually, in the 90s and 2000s, it was still on third grade. People started learning English, but currently it's right from the start, from first grade?
So the kids, if you approach a small kid on the street and ask something in English, well, will they be able to say something?
How old?
Like
Definitely
10.
10. I think yeah, 10. They would be able to answer somehow. And I know actually one child also who was 7 or 8. He played a lot of games online. He was really good. He was really good. So definitely some kids can, but I think kids who are 10 years old, especially Finnish kids, I think they might be shy if someone asked
Oh,
something.
yeah.
But in theory, I think yeah, fourth, fifth grade, yeah, I think they could
Okay.
answer two basic questions.
Okay. Okay. Because I was surprised that in the Netherlands, even though people have people consume a lot of English content and without dubbing or anything, and it's also uh, very natural language for them, and they use it almost like their native language. But when you talk to kids, 10 or I don't know, 12 years old, they will be like, "Oh, English, okay." I just walk away because I don't understand anything. Like, and it was very surprising for me. Very surprised. Although in other countries, like I was traveling in Switzerland, for example, or in Sweden, then people would be, yeah, kids. I mean, they would be able to say something in English, and that is
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah. How in Sweden, for example, how old kids?
Yeah, I'm bad at estimating kids' ages,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand.
but yeah, I'm around like uh, maybe between 10 and 13 or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. They would be able to say something in English.
yeah. And what do you think in your childhood? How long did it take you to be able to have a conversation in English?
Um, in my childhood, I
Yeah, well,
I don't think
adolescence, child, like before you were an adult.
before I was an adult, I don't think I was able to have a proper conversation. It was always it took me a lot of time to form my thoughts, and if I want to say something, of course I could. When I was at school, like in the secondary school, where also we already were in different groups with your wife, and we had a good English teacher, and we were able to say quite some things, but I wasn't fluent for sure. And yeah, it was. I was also in a group of good English students,
Yeah.
so it was yeah, it was quite good education, but it was never. I never felt that I was fluent. I actually was never fluent until I came to the Netherlands, I think.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, in your school, did you speak a lot? Because in Finland we have a lot of like dialogues. We practice right from first grade, like speaking. Did you speak a lot with your classmates, or was it mainly listening to the teacher telling like about the grammar?
Um, it was yeah, it was diverse, but we didn't speak to each other a lot. I don't remember us like having a lot of conversations
Yeah,
with each other. We were mainly maybe presenting something. We were reading a lot of texts. We were translating a lot of words, doing lots of exercises. When it was coming to listening, we were listening from some tape, some conversations of native English speakers, and it was impossible for us to
mm,
parse to understand what they're saying.
yeah,
It was one of the worst things because, like, whenever there was this recording, we didn't understand anything.
yeah,
Um, Understanding each other and our teacher, of course, was easy, but conversational English, no, we didn't do that a lot.
yeah. No, but I think listening comprehension was always quite hard.
Yeah, I also I felt so before I started learning Dutch. When you listen to something in Dutch,
Mm,
you can understand quite some things.
yeah,
Um, Speaking is harder then.
yeah, yeah. yeah, let's talk more
Yeah.
about that later. So in your school, I think you also learned some other languages. Was it Polish? Did you take Polish as well, like my wife?
Yes, of course, of course. We were having our Polish adventure. It was a voluntary group, so we both went there, and um, Polish language is very similar to Ukrainian in many things. So it's not very hard to learn, but we also were not doing it very intense. So we also never became really fluent. But when we were going to Poland, there were some
Mhm.
travels that we could also take. We were communicating with our mentors very well. It was really easy. I don't know, we could sometimes make up words and they would just work because we had a feeling
Yeah.
for the
Oh
language.
wow.
Because it's like take a Ukrainian word and try to understand how it might sound in Polish, and if you don't know how that word is in Polish. So it works pretty well. You just need to know like some basic rules. If you know how to read the things out loud, then they sound very familiar to you. But you have to know how to read all these letters, the connections together, and how they translate into sound, how they sound actually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That is very helpful. Once you know how to pronounce it, then it's easier to understand.
yeah. For you as an Ukrainian and Russian speaker, are there any difficult things in Polish? Like, I think you have the all the same phonemes, like the sounds, or is there something that's hard to pronounce in Polish for you?
Pronunciation is quite easy. At least I was able to pretend that I'm speaking Polish, and some people would confuse me as a native.
Yeah,
And I was very proud of this. But then I had a situation where I have to continue conversation, and yeah, sometimes I think the most confusing thing about Polish language for me was how they build the future times. Like they are using the verbs in past tense that to me sounds like past tense
yeah,
to add something to it and make a future tense out of it. So this was like the one thing that I had to get used to. Otherwise, it's just about filling your vocabulary, which yeah, I didn't have a chance to do a lot, but it worked for some time.
yeah. So vocabulary easy and grammar mostly, except like this future tense.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
there were some grammatical things that were a bit tricky, but you get used to them as well, I guess.
yeah. If a Polish person is listening to Ukrainians like you who have learned Polish, uh, and if you speak really well like Polish, can they hear from somewhere? Okay, this Ukrainian person said this. I think she's from Ukraine and not Poland. Are there
Oh,
like examples about that?
I don't know really. Like
Uh,
you mean when I speak
like
Polish?
when a Ukrainian person speaks very fluently Polish. I'll give you
Mm,
an example. For example, Finnish and Estonian are really close, like not super close, but quite close. But Estonian has a few differences. For example, they have one letter that we don't have. It's like u, u. They have
mm-hmm,
which we both have, but they have like also u, and
mm-hmm.
that was a bit hard for me as well. And in Estonian, the L's are a bit softer. They're like in more in
Uh,
like in Russian. In Finland, it's like L is alla, but in Estonian they would maybe say alla, like a softer. And also cat is in Estonian kass, but Finns would say kas and kash.
uh-huh.
Like there are a few differences that when I hear someone talking an Estonian speaking, for example, Finnish, I can usually say, okay, this person is from Estonia, even though they speak very well, very like fluently.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think there might be like there are some sounds that are very Polish, and it takes a lot of training to pronounce them somewhat correct, but probably they can hear the difference. Like they have the letter that is, for example, like e with the little tail, and it's pronounced as L, like benda, or like, of course I said it wrong. I said it with a Russian accent.
Yeah.
And there is also, as you said, L reminded me of this W. They have like a L with the little
Yeah.
thingy,
Mm.
and it's pronounced not as L, it's pronounced as W,
Wo-
W, or something like this.
Yeah.
It's easier to say in a word than alone. So like, for example, Michał, it's a name. So that has this on the end, and it's not L, but some people might say it's something like L, or like we lean to something very binary. Either it's V, or or it is L, but there is something in between which we cannot really pronounce. So yeah, that might give us away. Yeah,
Yeah. That
I think.
actually reminds me about Portuguese. In Portuguese of Portugal, they actually pronounce the L differently, and in Brazilian Portuguese, it's a bit like in Polish. For example, Brazil is in Portuguese from Portugal. I think Brazil, but in Brazil they would say Brasil, like w.
Uh,
It's
uh-huh.
it's it reminded me about Polish, the L with this. I think yeah, it's quite similar.
Okay. Yeah, what was for me for Portuguese language, what is very noticeable, like when I met Brazilians or people from Portugal, they are saying uh, R, the letter R, they
Mm.
pronounce it as h, and this
Yeah,
is like so,
yeah,
not in all cases, sometimes, and for me it's like I don't know, I
yeah,
don't know
yeah,
what's going on, but yeah, it's very hard for me to pronounce this. Like there is a name Raphael. I would say Raphael, but it's Rafael. Yeah, something like that.
yeah. Like my Portuguese is not perfect, but I would say maybe Rafael.
Rafael. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like softer, like more a ha than L.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, what about when you hear other Ukrainians speaking? Can you
Yeah.
usually locate? Okay, this person is from west and east and north and south.
Yes, some of them, not all of these regions, but when I hear Ukrainians from Western Ukraine, I can definitely tell when they speak Ukrainian. Um, they have different intonations in their speech, so you can definitely tell, yeah, it's around Lviv or something like that. Uh, in When I went to Kiev, I was never sure which language to speak because it's 50-50, and I'm
Yeah.
like, it's the city where I'm the most confused. I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
Like people, probably people come from the whole country, and there is such a mix that I'm never sure what is real Kiev
Yeah.
pronunciation.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and if it's a Russian-speaking person, then they come from south or from east. Um, I can tell Russian from Ukrainians apart from Russian of Russians. So uh, that is something like not instantly, but sometimes you have to listen a bit, and some sounds give away that okay, this person comes from Ukraine. This
Yeah.
is
Like for
yeah,
example, the ra, the G.
uh-huh.
Ra.
Yeah. Also, I say sure, like what?
Yeah.
They say что? I cannot even say it properly, and
Yeah.
they were making a lot of fun of me, and yeah, like some things I just cannot control, and I think I started controlling it. Like I don't say "huh" too much, but
Yeah.
sometimes it might still, yes, slip through.
Yeah. And when was it when you started Polish? When did you have the opportunity of like choosing these optional languages?
I don't remember how old I was, but it's not too far into the secondary school.
Yeah.
Uh, It was a voluntary group, so I think we joined after some time, not immediately, but my memory is really bad about like
Yeah.
I don't have good skills of remembering things. But this was not didn't take too long, I think. I don't remember us learning it for too long. Our teacher had to leave at some moment. We were very sad about it because she is a native Polish person, so she had to
Mm.
come back because her contract ended, and there was no other person to teach us. So it didn't take too long. In my memory, it's 2-3 years at most. But Anya will tell you probably
Yeah.
probably I'm remembering things wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And was Polish the only language you could choose, or in your school was there also other options?
Actually, there was 3 options for everyone. Polish is like a secondary thing, like anyone could join. It
Hmm.
wasn't mandatory, but there were 3 options of which you can choose one, and that was mandatory, so everyone had to do this. And the options were German, French, or Spanish. And I selected German. Anya also did
Mm.
went for German. And in our class, I think people split into 2 groups. There were no Spanish learners, um, and yeah, French or German. And I also think we didn't study German for the whole time. I think we started a bit later. And somehow my German skills didn't go nearly to as close to English skills that I gained in the school. But I still also could like say so express myself sometimes, say something. So it also helped me in the future later, so
Mm.
I think it's
Yeah.
good that I learned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So German in secondary school as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
And after secondary school, high school, did you have any languages
yeah.
there?
um I don't like we had 2 schools. I don't know how to properly call them. Like a primary school is a primary school, and the secondary was from age 10 until we had to go to university.
Okay, so
So
yeah, that's like the includes
yeah,
high school then. Yeah.
also yes, yes. So it was the same school, and after that, I only continued to university, and there
Mm.
I went to a technical university, and our language learning was nearly stopped there. We had different teacher every half a year, and not all of them were really enthusiastic of teaching us English. We only were studying English there,
Yeah.
and only one of these teachers I really remember. She was really good, but she also stayed for a half a year, and yeah, unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of English or a lot of language learning there.
Yeah, I guess it's the same everywhere. Like in university, you have maybe most like in Finland we have like professional English. It's maybe
Yes,
one course, and we have also professional Swedish because yeah, like it's the second official language here. But otherwise, it's yeah, they are only like one. It's only one course in English, one mandatory course in Swedish. Otherwise, it's mostly uh, studying what you're specializing in.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yes. So then, of course, there is no need to focus on many languages. Like there were some faculties with leaning to engineering as well, but something with German, so there will be also a bit more German in it. But it wasn't exactly the type of engineering I was interested in, so uh, I had to really go and study for my profession mostly. And actually,
Yeah.
I had good exposure to languages in my school, so I was quite happy.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. What kind of engineering did you do? Was it like computer science or?
Computer science, yeah, yeah. I'm so like, of course, we had almost experimental specialty in that faculty. So it used to be already electronics and telecommunications, and then they decided to introduce some software engineers, engineering, so computer science group there. And we were literally the first group in this faculty doing computer science. There were a lot of bumps, but yeah, it went quite okay in the end.
And that was a 5-year or a 6-year program? Or like was it the first bachelor, like 3-4 years, and then
Bachelor,
masters after that?
we had bachelor, then we could go for specialist or masters. Specialist is no longer a thing in Ukraine, but it used to be like something between bachelor and master. So you could be like an upgraded bachelor.
Yeah,
And
okay.
later it got converted to master's degree. So I am kind of master's, but I studied like half a year less than those who did the master's.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I actually started the same school, computer science here in Rovaniemi this week,
Oh,
actually.
yeah, I
So,
heard about it.
yeah, so I'm
It's
just
a
in
very
the beginning of my studies.
nice, good luck to you. It's a very good profession, good specialty, very interesting. You will love it.
Yeah. So after graduating, what happened next?
I went for my first job. I found it a little bit before I actually graduated. There, on my first job, I had English classes, and it
Yeah.
was amazing. We had it was also kind of mandatory, and all employees could join it. And it was like done in your work time, so you basically like end your work in the
Oh,
middle of the
wow.
day.
That's
You go
nice.
for a
Yeah.
class, and then you
Yeah.
come back. I had a very good teacher. There were several. I heard they were all good, but I really like the teacher which I had, Alex, and he was trying to teach us conversational English, and he was trying to really introduce us to the phrases that are like said in English language that might sound strange to us, or like some like phrases that are used in English language. And later, when I was actually speaking with other people in real life,
Yeah.
I recognized so many of them, so many of these phrases that he was teaching us. And we were doing a lot of talking, like mostly talking. And this was probably one of the biggest upgrades of my language in Ukraine, like maybe even more than what I've learned at school. So this was really good,
Yeah.
good stuff. Yeah.
So this was in Odessa, the company. Was it an international company, or why did you have to?
Yeah. Yes, it's I was working at Nutcracker. It's also related to telecommunications, and they had like some platforms they were building, and it's a very international company. They're also in US and in many other countries. Um, yeah, so we also had to sometimes maybe have a call with a colleague on the other end, and of course it was useful for our job. It's a very good
Yeah.
excuse, and we would travel. Like I wasn't lucky enough to travel with this company, but some other people travel a lot abroad, and of course it was very useful to know the language.
So you had to even call people in English.
Yeah, not often, but
Yeah.
it could happen, like sometimes. Yeah.
What do you think about this? Because I think calling even in your native language, it's sometimes like I don't want to,
Yeah,
like
I
the
know.
sounds can be a bit like vague, and I mean sometimes it's even hard to understand what the person is saying even in your
Yeah.
native language. So sometimes when you know you have to speak a foreign language in phone, it's like so much stress. How was it for you?
Yes. Always stress, always in any language. I always feel stressful when I have to make a call. But
Yeah.
I had a case when I had to call to support guys, and they like to give you passwords or something, and they would say key K as in keen or something like they would find every word, and I couldn't understand what he's saying. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't understand it so many times, and I was so
Yeah.
frustrated because I could speak English, but I don't understand this guy. And he's like, "Do you speak English? Can you please ask someone who speaks English?" I'm like, "Come on, I can do it."
Yeah.
And there were cases like this, but of course, of course you get used to this, and
Mhm.
these days, most of the time I'm working remotely and I'm having calls with people. So now it's very, very easy. It
Yeah, yeah,
became
yeah.
easy in time.
So it was good practice there and getting used to also speaking English in the phone.
Yeah,
Which year what was this? How long ago?
it was 2015,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah, it's my first job. Yeah.
yeah. And how long did you stay there before moving to Poland?
Um, I think 1.5 years or a bit under 2 years, something like that. And I, yeah, when I went to Poland, I wasn't also like really having like I was having interviews and everything before I could go there, and I was doing that with Russian speaking people. It was not like Poles, it was not English speaking. At the start I was even hesitant to cross the border between my native language and
Yeah.
fully English. I needed some backup, like there are some people, they work in this company and they speak Russian. Okay, that is easy.
Hmm.
So that I went for an easy option when I moved to Poland.
Where did you
Yeah.
move in Poland? Which city?
In Gdańsk. Gdańsk.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
On the north of Poland. It's a wonderful city. I think it's the best one in Poland. It's like it's so beautiful, so good.
Yeah, it's. I have been in Gdansk and I think Warsaw. Yeah, I was only one day in Gdansk, but I think it looked so nice. I could have stayed even longer. We have actually really cheap plane tickets from Turku to Gdansk.
Uh,
Sometimes
yeah,
they are maybe I mean 20 euros or 30 or like very cheap.
it's like across. It's quite close then, if you think this way,
Yeah,
right? Only across the sea.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's why we started our interrail actually from Gdansk. I lived at the time in Turku, so it was convenient
Mm-hmm.
for us to just take the plane to Gdansk and start our like interrail uh, trip across Europe.
Nice, nice.
How long did you live in Poland, and did you yeah how much did you improve your Polish?
I didn't live that long in Poland. I think it was 9 months or something like that. And I didn't speak a lot of Polish. I no, actually, I did speak at the shops and when I met other people on the streets, and sometimes a stranger will talk to me in the train or in the
Mm,
tram, and I would do my best to speak Polish because I
yeah,
can. I think the most stressful and also helpful in Polish language experience was when I had to find my apartment in Poland because I had to call uh, to different people asking about apartment, scheduling and viewing, and I would do it fully in Polish. And sometimes they would ask, "Are you a foreigner?" Very carefully,
yeah.
like, "Of course I'm a foreigner. Did you hear my broken Polish?" But I was so proud of myself that I could handle things over a call in
Yeah.
Polish without needing to fall back to English or anything else. So
Hmm.
um, if you can do this, you already feel quite comfortable in the country because you can handle like any questions. You can go to the bank, you can fully handle your bank account, or you can go to any place and do this in Polish, even when it's not perfect Polish.
Hmm.
Um, at work, we didn't speak Polish. I had a lot of Russian-speaking colleagues. There were like we kind of split into two groups. There were Poles that they were speaking among themselves, and we were speaking among our group. So I think that is a shame that we didn't mutually integrate a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there any situations where you weren't able to speak Polish and you had to use English?
Back then, I didn't feel that comfortable in English either.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
no, I didn't have the situations, but some of my colleagues actually were using English sometimes because there were colleagues who came from Russia, and something that to me sounds like a bit modified Ukrainian
Yeah.
for them would be something I don't know what it is at all. And there were literally situations like
Mm.
this. When I understood, like we had mandatory medical screening, and we had to go to this ladies there and ask questions, and they would have to direct us in different rooms. And what she replied, I would understand immediately because it sounds very similar to Ukrainian, even if I didn't use this word in Polish before. And I had to translate it to another colleagues
Yeah.
because to other colleagues because like for them, what did she mean? What did she mean? And they tried to ask in English, but when you ask a Polish person, do you speak English? They would always say trochę, which means a bit, which is
Yeah.
not true. Usually they speak quite okay, but
Mhm.
they are somehow shy to do this.
So Polish people generally speak better English than in Ukraine or
I think so.
Ukrainians.
Maybe these days it has changed. I haven't been, yeah, I don't know how the situation changed in Ukraine in this regard in the last 5 years or so, but it's changing rapidly, and I know that many people are now learning English um, more intense. Um, it used to be the case that Polish people could speak better English, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can't remember because we were in Poland maybe 2 or 3 days, and yeah, we didn't have to speak that much with people, and the few people whom we talked, I think they were able to speak English.
You did not speak in Polish to them?
Who? There were four of us, and none of us, like nobody of us spoke any Polish. So
Okay. I thought you went with Anya because Anya can speak some Polish.
yeah, yeah, she speaks, but I don't. Yeah, my Polish skills are almost zero. Okay, I know something because I've completed the Duolingo Polish course maybe
Oh, wow.
6 years ago or seven. I don't remember how long ago. So I remember the structure and like how it works, but I don't remember the words. But yeah, I can understand something when I read, but no,
Mm.
if I would go now to Poland, I no, I wouldn't speak or try Polish because
But will you understand spoken Polish?
oh, very little. No, maybe some words.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you're not exposed to a language for a long time. I think my Polish has degraded a lot since I lived in Poland as well,
How long ago did you move away from Poland?
6 years ago.
6 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
And in these 6 years, how many times have you had the chance to use Polish?
When I was flying through Poland to Ukraine back in the days when
Ah,
it was
okay.
possible,
Yeah.
I didn't go to Poland. Oh, actually, I have some Polish colleagues these days, and I try to show off a bit, but that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
After Poland, did you move straight away to Netherlands or what happened then?
Yeah, I found a job in the Netherlands. I had to shortly come back to Ukraine, do my documents and stuff. I think I stayed for a month in Ukraine, and then I moved to the Netherlands. Um, and You want to hear the whole story, how it was with the languages in the
Yeah.
Netherlands? Yeah. So I went through the interview process back when I was in Poland, and of course, people are there. It's a very international company where I found my job, and they were used to some people not speaking fluent English. Actually, back at that time, I was watching a series, France series. I think it was the biggest boost of my understanding of English at that time.
Which one? Which series was that?
France.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I started watching it because I wanted to train my English, understanding, like
yeah.
listening skills. And at some moment, I noticed that I'm watching it because it's fun, and I no longer have to
Yeah,
work hard to understand it.
yeah,
And I think it helped me also a lot. I had these interviews. Went quite fine because these people are also not native English speakers who were interviewing me. They also come from all kinds of countries, and it was quite easy to speak with them. And we had remote interviews. And then when I came to the Netherlands, And of course, people were also very nice to me because they saw that it was for me still hard to fluently express my thoughts in English and everything. And sometimes I would say something completely wrong and they would correct me. They would understand what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my English was so bad comparing to now. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't able to speak comfortably. I would prefer to keep silent and listen to other people. And sometimes I would stress a lot because I don't understand what this person is saying. Like this person I understand, but this person not at all. Like
Mm-hmm.
nothing at all. Um, and of course you get used to it, and at some moment it kind of clicks, and you hear some words you don't understand. I always look it up, and I always try to use it again.
Yeah.
Also that led to some funny situations, but of course I think it's still the ongoing process. I'm still
Yeah.
learning a lot of things in English. Um,
Do
and
you
I yes.
do you remember any funny mistakes you made in English, maybe?
Yeah, like I wanted to say film, like to cover food with the thin foil or something like a film. And I said something like flip or something like this,
Yeah.
but nobody could understand it. And there were like words that would literally translate to something. Like, for example, if I'm doing something and I got distracted, and we would say in Russian there is a word that would mean not exactly distracted, but it would mean something I got so into the flow and I forgot about something, like I didn't notice time or didn't
Mm-hmm.
notice something. I translated it with Google Translate and it gave me infatuated. And I'm like, oh, infatuated.
Yeah.
But it's like you fall in love with something or you get obsessed or you fall in love. But in my head, it was I got distracted.
Yeah.
And that led to really funny situation. Yeah.
Were there like more
Um,
questions, like who is the person who caused this or anything like that?
yeah, like I was cutting a cucumber and I got infatuated, like fall in love with the cucumber
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have
there
had
were quite some.
no, yeah, continue.
Did you have any like funny English situations, or
Oh, yeah, yeah,
was
yeah.
it?
Actually, so I lived 1 year in England as a child when I was 6 to 7 years old, and not funny, but I mean, when I started the school, I knew, like, I didn't know any English, and some other kids started like chasing me, and they were trying to like fight with me, but I was running away from them because there were like two or
Mm.
three of them. And I went to one guy who was sitting somewhere, and I was like, okay, now Christian, try to remember everything you know about the English language that you have learned watching Power Rangers. And I could, yeah, I was like, okay, I know mom, but mom, that doesn't help me now. Help. And then I was like, oh yeah, now this word I know. And I went to this one boy and said like, help, help. Yeah, he just stared at me and didn't do anything. And then I thought, okay, they are coming. I had to continue running away from the two or
uh,
three boys
oh, okay.
who were chasing and trying to kick and hit me.
Wow, that is yeah, that is quite a
Yeah,
stressful
that's
experience.
a really funny and relaxed first day is at school in a foreign country where you know maybe 10 words that you have learned from Power Rangers. Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't fun then, but now it's a funny story. And
Yeah,
every
hard
now
way.
yeah, yeah, and every now and then when my wife tries to say something like her Finnish is, of course, it's like very good, very fluent, but sometimes she makes some funny mistakes, and then I use these words and we laugh at
Oh
them,
yeah.
and it's yeah, it's funny. But
Mm,
um, one example, I don't. remember if she made this mistake, but in Finnish you have to be quite careful with the vowels if they are like if there's only one or two, because for example, uh, to meet, I'm meeting him or her is minä tapaan hänet, but the to meet word is like in singular first person it's tapaan, but I kill is tapan. Tapan and tapan, there's only one letter change. Yeah, one letter change and a difference. So minä tapaan hänet or minä tapan hänet. It's quite big, the difference. And maybe this kinds of mistakes sometimes. I'm like, really you? And then, yeah, but I cannot remember any. Oh, yeah. One, no, there are many stories about that, but yeah.
It reminded me because my husband also makes fun of me sometimes, as I would say something in English though, because we speak in English mainly. I would call my toes, I would say fingers, because like in Russian language, it's fingers and that is fingers as well. We have no special word for fingers on the toe, like on the feet, and he would call it fingers these days, like all the time.
Oh,
Because
yeah. That's actually one funny thing which is present in many Indo-European languages. When I was in Sri Lanka, traveling 3 years ago, I remember one guy was saying foot fingers.
foot fingers.
Foot fingers. I was like, and then I remembered, oh yeah, like because Sinhalese is also Indo-European, so in the same family as all the Slavic languages and Romance and Germanic languages. And I remembered something about Latin because when I studied medicine, I learned that it's like digitus or something like this, like the digits. It's all fingers and toes. It's like digitus, and there is no separation. And I was like, okay, foot fingers. He means the toes. So basically the same mistake as you did.
Yeah, many people do the same mistake because, like, yeah, it just comes from the differences in the languages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you start learning Dutch when you moved to Netherlands, or did you wait a bit before starting it? And
I did learn Dutch. Like, I went to some classes. It was twice a week, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, I was trying to not spend a whole lot of money on it, so it was probably maybe not even like the most intense, not the most quick way to learn Dutch. Um, and I think it did help me a bit. I honestly don't know where most of my Dutch language knowledge comes from because by now I can understand a lot of Dutch, but I cannot say that I did so much of classes or so much of like deliberate learning
yeah,
only when I was preparing for my exams. But after that, I think I didn't spend. After some time, I dropped from classes and I didn't continue effort on learning Dutch. And of course, I try to like for fun speak with my colleagues sometimes. And when I say something, they say, "Oh, it's so good! You can speak so good."
yeah.
I cannot speak that good, but if I have to, I, I try to practice, but not as I would deliberately, try to make it better. Uh, and for maybe 5 years that I'm here, I always was afraid to speak to people in the shop in Dutch because I was always afraid that I say something, or I can say the starting phrase, and then they will say something back or ask me something, and I will be not able
Yeah.
to reply, and then it becomes like strange and I was always afraid that there was this barrier, but I think only now I was like, okay, when they say something back, I do understand it. So maybe
Mhm.
start saying something. So I think only last year I'm like trying to speak more Dutch out when I'm going somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically,
Most of my colleagues, yeah.
mostly
In
English
my
with your
normal life,
colleagues.
yeah, in English with colleagues, English with my husband. Only with my in-laws I speak Dutch because they like how I try to speak Dutch and they
Mhm.
always talk in Dutch to me.
Oh,
So yeah,
that's nice.
yeah,
What about your
that's nice.
husband? Has he learned a bit of Russian?
He knows a lot of words about food because I was exposing him to some Ukrainian foods, and he would literally call some things like he knows this is grechka, this is vareniki, this is he knows
Mhm.
all these words, and within our family we call it the original words, and we don't try to translate it to English because it's always a bit strange in English.
Mhm.
Um, and he can. I tried to teach him alphabet a long time ago. I
Yeah,
think he can recognize, like he can read some words, but he doesn't remember all the letters. I think it's just a lack of motivation to learn
yeah.
Russian or Ukrainian.
Do you
Yeah.
think in some point you will start speaking Dutch together, or
No,
yeah,
I don't think so. I I was proposing to try to switch to Dutch, but he said it will not be very fair. Like I'm speaking my native language, and you're going to speak
yeah,
foreign language, and now we are speaking both. We're both speaking the language that is not fully native to us.
mhm.
So it's okay. And because we also have some plans to move to Sweden in the future, we want to actually gradually switch to Swedish. So we
Oh
want
wow!
to,
So from English
yeah,
to Swedish, so you would speak
yes,
together Swedish.
yes. Like
Oh
now,
wow!
our Swedish is very, very low, and it's not possible yet. But if
Yeah.
we continue learning, then we
So
will, yeah.
so you have started already learning Swedish.
Yeah, yeah, but we learn it through the apps. Like we use Duolingo, we use Bubble, we had some other subscription that we were following, and we're doing a lot of passive learning. I don't know how to say, but we can say simple things, and when we travel to Sweden, we can read and we can understand some of the ordering stuff and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, stuff like the written Swedish a bit. It helps a lot, but it's
Mm.
not close to the level that we need.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also from Duolingo, you have, I think, when you learn well the phrases from Duolingo, you can very well be quite creepy and say stuff like I like oil, and I like watching you. I
Yeah,
like
these
uh,
phrases.
I like to follow you. I think those are phrases that I've actually filmed in these Duolingo in real life videos that I think my wife has told you about.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, there are like so many strange things.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, we have filmed 45 episodes currently about like the craziest phrases, and we will be showing these videos how they would look if someone would use these phrases. And
No, I didn't know about this.
ah,
Oh, okay.
okay, yeah, and I can remember the Swedish phrases that we have used. One was like "I like oil." My Swedish-speaking friend uh, was pouring oil on himself, and like he didn't have a shirt. And then there was one phrase
Oh,
when someone, I think the same friend is in the bush, and he's watching and saying like I
wait
like
a second.
following you or something like.
I think I recall something. Not exactly these phrases, but I think there were some videos that I've seen.
Yeah, maybe it was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
1 or 2 years ago when my wife mentioned
Oh, okay, okay,
about
okay.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, yes, yes. That sounds familiar now.
yeah. No,
Yeah, yeah, this is this is sometimes really like why do you expose us to these strange words? Maybe I will not need them in real life like
yeah,
forever. Maybe teach us something when we really need, but okay.
yeah, yeah. And now when you were traveling in Sweden, how long were you traveling actually?
We just went for some vacations, like we
Yeah.
went 3 times or something like that for
But
once for 2 weeks.
yeah. But the latest vacation, was it 1 month ago, or was it in
Yeah.
like this summer, a few
Yes, we
weeks?
went in August
August,
for 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Hmm.
Okay. Where did you go in Sweden?
We went Torsby, so that is the area above the big lake, the biggest lake. So we didn't go that far north, but we went a bit north of this lake, and we stayed in a cabin there and didn't go a lot to the cities. Maybe some small like villages around, and there was not actually a lot of cities nearby. It's it's already more distant area. And
Yeah.
the second one of event, it's like maybe 100 kilometers, no, maybe 100 kilometers from Göteborg, Gothenburg, and there were some others like small cities nearby, and then we would go out a bit more, but we still stayed in the cabin.
Yeah.
And we did not speak to people a lot. We were mainly like looking around because we were thinking moving to Sweden, like where would we like to live, and to just see how the
Yeah.
things are there.
And what do you think? Where do you want to live in Sweden?
We are now leaning towards north of Stockholm because we need still some kind of closeness to the big job hub. Stockholm
Yeah.
is a big hub
Yeah.
of jobs, and we want to live a little bit out. So we want to find the area where we could like easily reach city when we have to, but we still stay a bit out.
Yeah.
So maybe Uppsala. Yeah.
Yeah. Somewhere. Uppsala. How I can't remember how far away Uppsala is from Stockholm.
It's not far. It's I don't know, 50 kilometers. Maybe I'm just confusing things, but it's quite close, nearby Stockholm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe the very northern part of Sweden, so you can meet with my wife more frequently, because from here it's actually around 100 kilometers to the Swedish border.
Yeah, I saw it on the map. Like literally, it is it is across like very close. To just go to Sweden for you now, and it's a bit too far north for us.
Yeah, there I understand. There is not that much except tourism in the very northern part of Sweden.
But how do you like it there?
I like it here. Actually, the northern part of Finland, like Lapland, is, I think, the infrastructure and all is a bit better than northern Sweden. Or that's actually what I've read, and Rovaniemi, where I'm living now, we have like 60, or was it 70,000 people. So this is the biggest city in Lapland here.
Yeah.
So
Is
we
it a
have,
quiet city? Very quiet, right?
well, every city in Finland is quiet. Like the capital city area, Helsinki, Vantaa, Espoo, I mean, that's actually quite quiet too, like compared to almost any big cities of any other country. So when you go away from the capital city area of Finland, I would say all the cities here are quite quiet if you compare to maybe Chinese or Russian cities, or even maybe Ukrainian.
Yeah, I always get when I come back to Odessa to visit my parents, I'm always not expecting this city so alive and so big and pushing on you and very active, like it used to be at least. I don't know these days, but yeah. Even after the Netherlands, it's too much.
Yeah, Netherlands. It's so densely populated.
Yes.
So much people. So is that why you want to move to Sweden?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons because of course, a lot of opportunities around this area where we live. It's like the biggest economic area of the Netherlands, and it's very densely populated. It's a lot of people everywhere, and you cannot find peace. Like you cannot just go outside to the forest and be alone because there will be a lot of people everywhere,
Yeah.
and not that much of nature areas. Most of them are human-made and they're like
Mm.
small and everything is tiny. So we wanted some more uh, space and some more, yeah, like freedom to breathe.
Yeah.
So
And
that is.
yeah. Is it planned to stay in Sweden for a long time, or do you know yet how long you're going to stay, or is it plan to like stay in Sweden, or maybe then try other countries, or if you know it even?
We are thinking that we would like to stay there. Of course, we will just try and see if it really works for us, and it's not like we are tied to the place if we don't like it or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
something. But like initial plan is that we would like to settle probably in Sweden. Um, so we cannot settle in the Netherlands, but we would like to buy a house and like yeah,
Hmm.
find more of a home. So yeah, that will be probably the plan.
Yeah. And for both of you, it's like for neither of you, it's not a problem like to learn another language, Swedish, uh, or
Yeah.
what's your perspective, your and your husband's? Is it like a
Um,
problem that you think, oh my God, we have to learn another language, or is it a like positive thing?
Now we are a bit excited. I don't know how will it work in the long run. We are now quite still quite motivated to learn it. We had very different experience in terms of learning languages. Like my husband was learning English. Like they had a lot of English in university. They were doing a lot of things in English, and they were watching a lot of English spoken content from the very young age. And he learned it a lot better than I. And he can like read fiction books without any need to go to vocabulary. I wouldn't be able to do that. And like he's pretty much native. Like
Hmm.
he knows very well. And he learned this language. And after that, he didn't like he learned a bit of German, a bit of this, a bit of that, but not seriously.
Yeah,
In my experience, it was more languages, but more shallow. So it's
yeah.
more on the surface. Like I could use it a bit, but I was never good in any of them. And like I was more broad and in terms of languages, and he went more deep. So for us, it's a very different experience. Now we need to like gain some Swedish quickly because
Hmm.
we need to integrate as quick as possible, and we need it will be good help like for moving there. So I think it's equally hard for both of us now, but
I
yeah,
think
I did
it's
it before.
I think he has an advantage as a like native Dutch speaker
Yeah,
who
probably.
speaks well English and has exposure to like German also. I mean, Swedish. Uh, I think it's going to be for a Dutch speaker the same as for you learning maybe Polish. I mean,
Uh,
if
Maybe it's a
he
bit further apart, I think.
yeah, but if you combine everything, like his native language is Dutch, he knows English and somehow German. So I think when you take into account
Yeah,
all these experiences, I think Swedish has so many like word roots that are
yeah.
so similar that I think it's unfair to compare, because I think uh, for your husband it would be quite hard to learn maybe Polish, but for you as a native
Yes,
Ukrainian Russian speaker, it's much easier. So I think maybe uh, this is one thing you will encounter in the future when you will like get into
yeah.
intermediate and advanced levels of Swedish.
I can already feel it because we sometimes see something written or something that is we both don't know what it is, but he can guess sometimes, and I'm like, "How do you know this?" And,
Yeah.
because this word in Dutch is very similar, or like, yeah, there are indeed a lot of words with similar roots, or at least he
Hmm.
can guess because it's like it's something related.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I think my Dutch language. that I know a bit of Dutch, it helps me also
Yeah,
with
true.
Swedish words.
Mm.
And like if we were traveling in Denmark, I would also recognize some things in Danish thanks to my Dutch knowledge. So that also helps me a little.
Yeah, yeah, and you
Uh,
had also German, so yeah, that
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But I think I can understand German, written German especially, more thanks to Dutch
Mm.
than to than thanks to school, because
Yeah,
Dutch overrides all my German skills
yeah,
by this moment.
yeah. Do you identify yourself as a like language enthusiast, or have languages been in your life just like a tool and a must to be able to work in a different country, to move different countries and travel and all that? Or how is it?
It's I think I was an enthusiast when I was at school, and I
Yeah.
thought I would connect my career to languages. And like when you have the language inclined education, then you of course try to see like what are the possibilities. And I thought I'll be like interpreter or something like this. It
Hmm.
was a very popular option. Um, then I went for a different profession. I never regretted it, and for me, languages became a tool in like gave me possibility to travel somewhere, gave me like a yeah possibility to communicate with people without problem, and gave me also skill to learn languages, because it's always like the more you do it, the easier it becomes every next time. And I try to started learning so many languages
Mm.
throughout this time that now it is a lot easier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's one thing I wanted to ask. I'm not sure if you want to talk more about that, but you invented your secret script or language with my wife.
Uh,
I don't know if you want to talk more about that, but if you want, maybe you can tell something about
Yes,
that.
I can I can elaborate a bit. So we were literally waiting for our Polish teacher, and we were a bit bored, so we decided to create a language. What else would you do when you're waiting for and bored, right? Um, we started with the alphabet, and we still can use it till this day, because we actually it's not really a language; it's more of a different alphabet for Russian language, because we communicate in Russian with the secret signs. Let's put it like that. We tried to make another edition of it, where we would also have a spoken version, where we would still modify Russian words in a specific way to make
Mhm.
them sound differently, so
Yeah,
nobody would understand us. Um, it never really went to the point where we could really use it, and I think at some moment we just abandoned it. But the written version we used it till this day sometimes. Yes, yeah,
yeah.
it's a miracle.
I noticed when was it that you sent a letter and she sent a letter back to you in
Yes,
this secret uh, script.
yes. We had a notebook where I would write to her what I think, like this girl is nasty, and I made a new friend, or whatever, whatever. I would write all these thoughts to her and give her this notebook. She will take it home. Like we might meet at school, I will give it to her. She will take it to home, write some response to this, and tell about her day, about her feelings, bring it back to school. We meet again, and she would give it back to me. We did it for quite some time, and at some moment, this notebook landed in my place, in my parents' house. I found it, I think, yeah, like 3 years ago or something like
Yeah,
that. Brought it to the Netherlands, and once Anya was here last year, she got it from me. Yeah, it's a very um, it was really nice to read it back, because like I could I could understand everything still, and to read like what we were thinking when we were small. I think it's a very nice piece of memory of our childhood.
I think that's quite impressive that you created a whole new like script and you still remember how to read it, and you still can
Yeah.
write some secret messages to each other, like after more than a decade, almost maybe 2 decades now. I mean, you
Yeah,
were how old? 12, 13, something like that, or was it
yeah, something
older?
like this. And the thing is, we were giving a meaning to every symbol, and we were
Mm.
explaining like how we did it is I make one letter, then her turn, she makes the next letter, and we did it in turns. And we would explain to each other, why do I draw it this way? What do I have in mind? And sometimes it would be something really like strange, and I still remember what they mean,
Yeah,
where these ideas come from. And even some of them are wrong, like not
yeah.
we didn't know it back then, but some of them are not like fully correct. And I remember this thinking, and I remember the ideas behind them. That's why I still remember them. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
remember how we like very vividly how we were talking about it and how we yeah all these explanations. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. You're actually now the third guest who has like created a language or a script. I had actually, yeah, you're in a very exclusive group now. One was the person who created the constructed languages for Game of Thrones and many other like Hollywood
Oh
movies. Yeah.
no, that's a different level. Come
No, no,
on,
no, you're
that
in
is
this. Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah. No, no, you're in this
Oh,
exclusive group.
no.
So David and his wife, they create actually whole languages and even scripts for different movies. And another one was a Finnish guy who has created two constructed languages and I think scripts maybe. And now you, the third one, and I think that's really unique. We haven't had anyone who has done like this, like within just one person like this. This is your secret language, only for you two, and you still know how to use it. So I think this is was a really fun story, and
Yeah, I think creating languages for movies, like when people really,
yeah,
make effort to make it a real language, and as I heard, like for Game of Thrones as well, it is really complicated. It's not as close, like
yeah.
nearly as close to what we we just
Yeah,
did,
but
like
the category, you're in the
Constitution.
same. Yeah, maybe the level is different, but the category is the same. I mean, people who have created con languages or scripts, from my guests, there are only 3 people, and you're one of them. No, four actually. In this episode, one episode, David and Jesse were both there, so 4 people,
Hmm.
but in 3 different episodes because they were together in the episode. So,
That's super
yeah,
cool.
yeah, so no need to feel any inferiority. Yeah, because your story was unique.
Did Anya teach you the scripting language?
No, no, no.
No, because it's a secret.
Yeah, it's.
Yes.
I mean, it's your secret. I cannot. I mean, it's. I think it's
You
forbidden.
respect that.
Yeah, it's forbidden to teach that to your like husbands even. So I mean, yeah, of course I respect that. It's your thing. I think yeah, maybe we have
Okay.
to create our own secret script or language with my wife. But yeah,
I think it's already like super cool that you can speak with each other so many different languages. You have
yeah,
an options to choose to choose. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Lately it's been mostly Finnish. I hope we can soon practice more Russian too. I mean, we actually recorded an episode in Russian, but yeah, we haven't practiced that much after she started her new job last December, and like my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law living with us. Yeah, we feel yeah mostly my wife feels like she doesn't want to practice when they are like listening what we are say
Hmm.
talking,
Yeah, I
so
understand.
I think maybe in some points when we live together just the two of us, and yeah, I think then we will start practicing more Russian
Practicing.
and
Hmm.
Spanish too.
Do you have like any purpose for Spanish, or is it just as a language enthusiast?
Just to improve. No, no.
How many languages do you speak?
Oh, that's
It's a hard
well,
one.
that's a hard question, depending on how you define talking. And but I could say I have filmed episodes for my podcast in eight languages currently.
Where you were speaking like only that language fully.
Yeah, yeah, like 1 2
Wow,
hour conversations. So
that's
um,
impressive.
of course there are
8 languages, man.
yeah. I mean, I will. I think I can add two. Estonian is quite strong language, actually, one of my strongest languages. But I haven't still found anyone who wants to be a guest. Like the, I will, yeah. I just need to ask more Estonian speakers to
Mm.
be a guest. But French, I mean, my French is better than my Russian, but I need a person who I know well, because my French, it's not like super good. So I feel more comfortable if I could do it with someone who I know. Like in Russian, I did it with my wife, and I might ask my 16-year-old
Yeah.
brother-in-law to, but I will make a lot of mistakes, but whatever. I think maybe in the future, in episode number 100, I will speak better. But yeah,
Wow.
and of course, other languages that I've like dabbled and in some point of my life, but I cannot have a long conversation, or like I can some basics in some languages. So it's hard to say in a number, but and for example, one of my Swedish episodes, I think I've recorded 5 or 6 in Swedish. One of them was with an Icelandic person who spoke Danish. So I
Ah, interesting.
I spoke Swedish and he answered in Danish, and yeah, we had a
You understood
conversation.
each other.
Well, yeah, we spoke for 1.5 hours or a bit longer. A few times I had to ask what he meant, especially the Danish numbers. They are crazy, so I had to ask a few times about the numbers, and a few times I didn't understand like 100%, but mostly the context. From the context, I understood what he was saying. So yeah, it was a conversation. I was like, we were talking, he answered, and then I asked more. Oh, okay, you mentioned that, and like that. But yeah, it wasn't too easy. I could, I survived, but uh, yeah, we understood both. And I mean, he speaks actually Swedish, so for him it was easy because he understood what I was speaking. And I was planning to do the same in Norwegian, because Norwegian is easier to understand than Danish. It's so much closer to Swedish. But I mean, I don't speak Danish. I don't speak Norwegian. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I can have a 1 2 hour conversation in with Danish or Norwegian speakers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why
But
it's quite hard to give any numbers of like which languages I speak or like that, because here just these two languages I can understand, but
mm-hmm.
I don't speak them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But were you deliberately learning, or does it come with like
Uh,
naturally for all
which
Finns?
which ones?
Like Danish or Norwegian, for
Oh
example,
yeah, oh
or
yeah.
Swedish?
If I only spoke Swedish, or were exposed only to Swedish, I wouldn't maybe understand that well. But I've watched a lot of movies in Danish and Norwegian. Actually, we had a project with my wife. We picked a country or a language, and for 1 month we were watching only movies in Danish, in Norwegian, in Polish. Actually, there was the worst movie that we have ever seen on Netflix was a Polish movie. It was a horror it was a horror movie. Uh, it was a horror and comedy at the same time about these murderous mermaids.
Oh my God. Yeah, that
So,
sounds like
and actually, it was a musical also. They were singing at times, and it was really weird. I have to, yeah, I will send you the link maybe. Yeah, but yeah, we had this project, so we were watching and listening. Yeah, that's how I was exposed to many languages, and also before that, I was exposed to Norwegian and Danish every now and then because in the Finnish national channels, Yle Kaks and Yle Yks and Yle Kaks. This is like abbreviation from Yleisradio 1 and Yleisradio 2 channels, which we have. They have a lot of Danish and Norwegian and also other Nordic, like Icelandic programs sometimes. So when I'm at my parents' place and put on the TV, especially in the mornings, there are a lot of Danish and Norwegian programs. So for years, little by little, I've learned the differences, and yeah, so that's how. But I think without this exposure, I wouldn't be able to understand them that well, especially in Danish. Maybe in Norwegian, but not in Danish. Yeah.
So you had like some kind of boosts at the start for
Yeah,
learning other languages.
yes. And I think I wouldn't do the episode if I knew that I would have to ask after every sentence, like, what does that mean? What does that mean? I could, hey, please
We
repeat.
can cut that.
Yeah. I mean, yes, that's not how I would want to do it. You as a software developer, what do you think about the future of language learning from a like software development side? I mean, there is going to be more technology involved, like in translation and also language learning. And yeah, what's your opinion?
So I tried this feature from Google where you can actually ask to interpret for you. Like you can say, Google, please help me interpret from English to Dutch, and you will say something. It will translate and say it in Dutch, for example, translate it back. So it was really working quite well. And in these cases, technology helps us a lot. But for language learning, I'm still having, there is a long way to go, like for if you really want to learn a language, not just have it support you for like any weird situations or being abroad or whatever. Yeah, I think there are a lot of good apps, but like they're mainly directed to vocabulary, and not a lot of them are about cultural things or like context or really building a conversation. It's not something that is hard to build as a software. A software is mainly hard to understand how we learn things and how we, yeah, how it's better for us to, like, for me, it's important to learn conversational language and to try and form my thoughts somehow with the vocabulary that I have already. I'm really struggling with this the most now since I'm learning Swedish. I don't know like how technology can help us here at the moment, like more than it is already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question. I'm just
Yeah.
giving you my thoughts, but without real conversation, without real interaction with other people, and it feels like it's not enough.
Yeah.
Like it's always passive learning. So I'm learning alone on the apps right now, and
Yeah.
it's I it's a bit helpful, but it's not. It's never going to bring you to spoken like fluent language. I
I
think
totally
at the
agree.
moment.
I totally agree. That's why that's why I came here. That's why I wanted to get these skills because I have the solution in my mind, especially at least for myself. So I think maybe other people might also like my solution if I'm able to build what I have in mind. So I don't know. Let's see.
I think like with the development of AI, we
Yeah.
might be able to get some maybe artificial intelligence partner for training that would correct us and
Yeah.
interact with us or
There
something
are
like that.
already
Okay,
already
yeah.
actually there's chatbots and others, but yeah, I think that's okay. That's a good
Not
start.
spoken
Starting.
though. Yeah. Like I tried ChatGPT, like it can speak pretty well many languages. It's not something spoken yet, right? It's just written. I'm missing a lot of spoken language at the
Yeah.
moment, so that the biggest gap. What idea do you have, Phil?
Oh, you will you will see it. It's complicated, and I mean you would need, but yeah, it would take into account like the cultural things and yeah, what I'm going to build. My plan is to offer something where you will learn about the history, the culture, the like listening, speaking, reading, like those skills, and in a game-like environment that which feels like being in a real life adventure, but be,
Mm-hmm.
having to being forced to learn the language to experience the adventure. And yeah,
It
I
sounds
try.
intriguing.
Yeah, I try to make it so that um, yeah, it's complicated to summarize the whole project, but yeah, I will try to start creating it step by step now.
Nice, nice stuff.
Yeah, because I agree. Some of the problems are currently that apps maybe, yeah, like you said, they focus on vocabulary and uh, yeah, you need also the culture and maybe seeing uh, how the sceneries in this city or the nature in that country are, and like having these situations where you in the game use the language, and
Mm-hmm.
so like more immersive experience. um, but I've seen some like VR games where you are in a restaurant or somewhere, but they yeah, that's a bit the direction where I'm going to go, but they look quite boring to me, so I'm like no, I have some.
You can't even eat. You have
Yeah,
to
I mean
order and then you.
they are made better than what there's currently available, but I have own ideas how to make them like a bit better and more interesting.
Mm, that sounds interesting. Yeah, like VR experience with more, where you are forced to use the language, basically, like speak
Yeah,
the language.
yeah, and try to add the like adventure element, like you feel that you have to you feel motivated to learn it because you will experience an adventure like as if you were in Final Fantasy, or I don't know which games you have
Mm-hmm.
played, or some of these interesting games where you explore a whole new world. And for me, languages have been a tool to explore like new worlds, like new countries, new places. So I think I want to get that feeling to the game.
Nice, nice.
Um, yeah, I have two theoretical questions to you that I usually ask my guests. So if you would have to choose, would you speak 10 languages perfectly, or like from the 10 biggest languages from the world, the top 10, or the top 1,000 smallest ones, and nothing else than these top 10 or top 1,000 smallest ones? and everything that's outside of them, you wouldn't be able to speak.
Mm. I think I would go for top 10,
Yeah.
because I'm very pragmatic about this. Like when it
Mhm.
comes to can I use this? How widely can I use it?
Yeah.
That is more important for me than um, going to discover all other languages. And if you know top 10, you're very likely to be understood everywhere,
Yeah.
or nearly everywhere.
Mm.
Yeah,
Guess what my wife picked. I think you know.
I know. Probably the thousands of others.
Yeah, exactly. And the
Because she's already doing it. She's learning all these languages I haven't heard about. So yeah.
like Northern Sami.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started the Northern Sami course last year, and
Yeah.
now she's actually retaking it because she couldn't. Yeah, she didn't have time for the second course, so now she's doing the first one and probably the second one next year. So yeah.
Mm.
Maybe that was one of the random languages that you were referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what do guests usually reply to? Like, what is the percentage of
Oh,
responses?
this is, yeah, I think it's pretty even 50-50. It's quite hard. Yeah. And for
Okay,
me
okay.
also it's hard. Some days I would pick the top 10, but some days I'm like, oh my God, it would be quite interesting to be able to speak these 1,000 smallest ones. So yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a hard choice. What about the second question? Would you want to be able to speak all the languages, speak and understand, but you couldn't read or write at all? Uh, so this is the first option. Or second, you could read and write every single like language, even the ones where you have only like parts of like a stone where you can see something written, you could immediately understand it. But you couldn't speak. You couldn't speak at all, but you could understand when people speak to you. So your listening comprehension is still, yeah, you have
Mm-hmm.
it. So you would have to maybe answer by writing because you cannot speak. So which one would you pick?
And the first option includes listening and understanding as
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. But
Speaking and listening. Yeah.
you would be just
Uh,
illiterate, so you couldn't do your current job.
mm. Oh, I think like the second option would bring me very close to my current situation because I I don't speak that well in many languages,
Mm,
but I can understand a lot of it. And if when you said it affects my job, then it would decide for the second option because my job is very important for me.
yeah, but in the
Yeah.
first one, you could speak all the languages, so you could. I mean, that would be also quite valuable, being able to speak with everyone. So you would definitely not be jobless. You would have definitely find some job.
Yes, but not the job that I like, probably.
Yeah. So you would
So
pick the second one.
the, yes, I think both options give you a lot of value. It's hard to exclude one, but I would choose the second one probably.
Okay. And do you think you're an introvert or extrovert?
Very much introvert.
Yeah, okay. I think mostly, yeah, introverts have picked the second one.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I haven't
makes sense.
actually. This is the first time I asked because I was thinking, are there maybe extroverts who would pick the second one? Because now when I think mostly extroverts would pick the first one, but and introverts the
Mm-hmm.
second one. But I'm not sure because I haven't asked everyone which one they are. But I assume maybe it tends to be more like this.
Yeah, like I can live very well without communicating too much, like speaking too much with people. And I even in the real life, I think I listen more than say something. So for me, it's more closer to reality already, that second option than the first one.
Yeah, I would
Uh,
take the first one. but I could live also with the second option. That's not bad either. What do you think? What did my wife pick? You definitely know. The
First one. First one.
first one.
No, no, wait a second. She would like to understand everything written on the stone, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. All the
Second one.
yeah, the ancient texts and all the
Yeah, how
mysteries.
could I say
Yes,
this?
yeah. That was correct. The second one. She said she doesn't need to speak. She wants to be able to
Yeah.
understand all the written, like the old mysteries of Egypt and other.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have anything that we didn't talk about that you might want to mention about regarding languages, or any questions to me, or anything to the audience? Anything else that we haven't talked about?
What would be your suggestion for those who start learning Swedish, for example?
What
As a
would I
person who knows it all.
suggest? Well, maybe. Well, it depends on what kind of a language learner, because I think people differ so much what kind of content they like to uh, use and consume. Like if I think about myself, uh, I usually like to go to a course first where I can like ask the teacher. But I know some people don't like going to courses, and I like physical courses more than online. And if I'm not going to a course, I like to learn the basic phrases and to learn the patterns of the, like, how to form different sentences. So there's like one website, 50 languages. They have like basic phrases about 100 different topics, and the audio in these languages. I mean, it's boring. It's like super basic phrases, but I mean, for me, I think it's important. But I know, well, for some people it's like, sounds too boring. But I like to learn the basic stuff first before starting to watch maybe some series or films, because I think, well, okay, in Spanish, for example, I watched in the beginning Spanish series and it worked. So maybe find a good series. Like in Netflix, they have Bonus Family. That's a really good one. The first 2-3 episodes were not that good, but it got better and better, and it's like really good. I've seen all the seasons. It's quite good.
Okay.
So you will see also the Swedish culture, and yeah. So maybe some shows like this. I could recommend Bonus Familjen, and yeah, there are probably more series and films in Swedish on Netflix or elsewhere. So maybe try to like understand the words and get used to the intonation and the rhythm, how they speak, and at the same time, like, practice the basic phrases, um, and when and what works for me, I like to practice the language. So uh, I've got a few language buddies that I found on tandem.com. There are similar websites like Hello Talk and others, but yeah, they might be a bit hard for women to find, because like finding good language partners, because some, I've heard it's quite common, like some people are just for a romance or not practicing languages. But I think there are definitely good language bodies there. And for me, I didn't find them, but they found me. And there's one Irani guy from one guy from Iran who lives in Linköping, and almost for 3 years we have practiced Swedish, because 3 years ago I didn't use Swedish that much in my everyday life, but now after 3 years, my Swedish has also gotten much better, much more fluent. 3 years ago, or even 2 years ago, I think I wouldn't have been able to create these episodes in Swedish. But yeah, I think for me the speaking part is important, but I know some people don't. For them speaking isn't that important, but I think, yeah, for you and your husband, probably speaking will be important. So maybe yeah, trying to find people with whom you feel like relaxed to talk, practice the language, and these language tandem websites are good, and also language cafes, which we have in Finland, in many places, here in Rovaniemi too. So I think in Sweden, depending on in which city you are, you might find these language cafes. Like my friend, this Irani guy, he went to the local language cafe, but it was quite small, only about 6-7 people. But the good ones might be very good. Like in Finland, we had language cafes where there were more than 100 people, many tables, flags indicating what language people want to practice, and that was like a buffet for me. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go there. There were many Swedish tables, and I went there and practiced Swedish. And so I saw, okay, there is the Spanish table. I went there, and I just went over all over the places, and it was in 2 different floors, and that was really good practice with people who wanted to practice the language. But yeah, it depends on where you live, and if there's such a like community who want to learn languages. Yeah, it depends, but I think that's a really cool way of getting new friends also. So I would say, yeah, it depends on where you live and what kind of resources you have, and your learning methods, what kind of learning methods you prefer. So it's
I
hard to
haven't heard
say. About
about
what?
this concept of cafes.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's in Finland they are known as cafe lingua. I think this is an international concept. I think cafe lingua. I think I've seen in many countries they have like their own cafe lingua, or something which has a similar name. But usually it's cafe lingua. You should maybe Google or search on Facebook if like they have a cafe lingua in your city. For example, here I just googled cafe lingua Rovaniemi, and they had.
Wow.
Yeah, so I
I
mean,
wonder if in Sweden we'll find many of these, because probably I'll be in Sweden quite soon. So
yeah. Well, in
maybe.
Linköping, it was a small one, mostly 6 or 7, well, 5, between 5 and 10 people attending, which is not much, and only mostly Swedish. But usually they have a lot of languages in these events. So
Interesting.
if you're in Stockholm, I guess they have, and the other big cities, Uppsala and others, I'm sure they have, but I have no idea how big the community is there.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's at least some new input I can try. I can look up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe on Netflix watch Bonusfamiljen or something else and start from there.
I'll take a look. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So maybe next time we
Um,
will make an episode with you and your husband, both in Swedish in a few years, maybe.
in few years, probably it's possible. I think in few years you can learn a language. Yeah.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
least on a basic conversational level. Yeah.
yeah. I think my friend learned from zero to conversation to a level where he was able to be like a guest in my podcast. I think it took, was it 3 or 4 years? Yeah, so I think
Okay.
if 3 4 years, yeah, maybe that's enough. So let's say in 4 years, I will give you 4 years, then we will make an episode with you too.
Now I have a deadline. Oh my God. So
Yeah,
much pressure.
I mean, but don't you like deadlines?
I'm used to it. Yes. That's
Yeah,
what you're
because
saying.
I was thinking the software developers probably have a lot of deadlines, so
Yeah.
maybe it's better to give a deadline than like not giving any
Yeah.
deadline.
Now I feel at home. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Anyways, thanks for coming as a guest, and thanks for everyone for listening or watching this episode. We will see you in the next episode. See you.
Thank you. Bye bye.